Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming into this sacred space, this time out of time, where only peace prevails. Special thanks to our harpist, Tammy Briggs. Thank you, thank you. And to our technical support guru, our beloved Becky Suzik, who's working behind the scenes for us today. And of course, it's our 40th anniversary, 4 decades of bringing peace to the planet. So we must acknowledge the work and the presence of our beloved founder, Eben Madison. I'm Tezekiah Gabriel. I'm the executive director of Pathways to Peace. And we invite you into the sacred circle. And we begin every council meeting by lighting the sacred council fire. So today, as we come together to honor, to celebrate, to reflect, and to remember, we're going to invite you into a meditative journey where we will be together in lighting that sacred fire. So we ask you to just relax. Yes, Tammy, you can accompany us with your beautiful heart as we breathe a little bit deeper, a little bit more slowly. As we breathe together the one breath with the one heart. As we embrace the beauty of this moment. And now we're going to take a journey. So we ask you, invite you in your mind's eye to journey to a place, a sacred space of your own creation. It's safe there. It's beautiful there. And only peace prevails in your sacred space. So look around you. See and feel that beautiful space of your own creation. And now you see in your hand a candle with a flame that burns bright, the flame of peace that you feel within your heart, that radiates out of the far reaches of the planet, bringing that intention of peace. And now you see before you a circle of stones. And in the middle of that circle there is a space and some kindling for a fire. And so you turn about you and you call in others to this sacred circle, those you wish to gather with you around that sacred circle of stones. And you see that each one you call in carries that candle and that flame of peace. And here they come to join you in jubilation, in celebration, and in the sacred space of that circle. With their intentions, each one of peace. And the flames of the candles glow bright and connect. And now again, you turn around and you see others coming from all the corners of the earth, each one carrying that candle, aflame with peace. And they come into your sacred circle. And now, as you look around you, you see that there are hundreds, there are thousands, as far as you can see, people carrying a candle of peace and surrounding that circle. And now you see everyone, each one, hold that candle near to their heart. And together you focus your energy on the center of that circle. And that fire bursts into light. The sacred fire of the council has been lit through the efforts of peace builders around the world that hold that vision, hold that intention, hold that flame of peace in their hearts, in their interactions, in their actions for peace. We see that flame as together we say, and peace prevails on earth. And peace prevails on earth. And peace prevails on earth. And now it's time to depart, with each going in their separate direction, bringing peace to their part of the world. And we acknowledge that we are never apart and we are all connected through that flame, that fire of peace. And we bring that knowing, that sense of connectedness, and that spirit of peace back with us into this particular time and this space. And so it is. Oh, thank you, Tammy, and thank you, all of you, for going on that journey. As we gather to light the council fire and launch this opening ceremony for the 40th anniversary of Pathways to Peace. So we move forward. So what's going to happen is that you'll be hearing from some of our council members who have been on this journey with us throughout those 4 decades. This is a 24-hour vigil that we're launching, virtual and candlelight, with a closing ceremony tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And that closing ceremony will take us into the future. So each of us will light our candles and share our prayers, our intentions for peace, as we invite you to do so, as we know our prayers are powerful. So I will light my candle. And as our journey continues, I will now take us into real time with our beloved co-founder, Joni Ciardali. Joni?
Thank you, Taz, for that beautiful beginning to our 40th anniversary vigil. Wow. I can't believe it's 40 years. So, Pathways to Peace started as a seed thought. I met Avon Madison, the founder and inspiration for Pathways to Peace, in about 1977. And we were both board members of the American Marketing Association, of all things. And we started a developing friendship and worked together on that. I hired her as a consultant for me at Levi Strauss International. And when I left Levi's in 1982, Avon invited me for a very auspicious dinner where our friendship began to deepen. And she asked me to be a co-founder of Pathways to Peace. And she shared her vision of what Pathways was to be with me. And it didn't take me long to think about it, knowing what an incredible visionary she was and sensing that this was really important. I said yes. And so that was the beginning of what blossomed into the official nonprofit organization called Pathways to Peace, which occurred in 1983, actually December 8th. The founding mission that is still at the center of the work of Pathways to Peace is acting in concert. We do make a difference in the quality of our lives, our institutions, our environment, and our planetary future. Through cooperation, we manifest the essential spirit that unites us amidst our diverse ways. So after following all the regular legal procedures, we then put together a wonderful cadre of founding directors and formalized our incorporation as a not-for-profit on December 8th, 1983, 40 years ago. And interestingly, we always included at least one youth representative on our council of directors and tried to be as diverse as we could. The infinity symbol is deeply embedded into this meaningful date, the 8th, as a testament to our 40 years success so far. At that time, I didn't realize that I had committed to working with an extraordinary woman who had been described by Dr. Willis Harman of the prestigious Strategic Environment Center at Stanford Research International as a person of integrity and deep personal spiritual awareness. And she has a sense of dignity regarding her role in these times, which are increasingly being perceived as times of crisis. She has the competence and groundedness to carry through on what otherwise might remain promising dreams. And that was definitely setting the tone with Willis's inspiring words and truth about our dear sister. I called her my star sister. In addition to Willis, we have a long list of directors and advisors that you can actually read about in our book. Avon and I, Avon and I created this book. I'll tell you the title, and it has this background on the cover, A Tale of Two Star Sisters and Pathways to Peace, which we published just shortly before Avon ascended to the other side. But some of the notable directors and advisors that you find on that list are the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Robert Mueller, who served under 3 different Secretaries General, and Avon called him the our patron saint. The astronaut Rusty Schweickart was one of our early directors, and the Nobel laureate Betty Williams was an advisor and dear friend. And Peter Caddy, the co-founder of Findhorn, was also one of the advisors. And we gathered with him early on. Avon knew all these extraordinary people quite well. And I could go on and on, a testimony to the fact that Pathways to Peace still thrives after these 40 years, even beyond Avon's physical presence, because we have invited and included wonderful people like Tezekiah and Tammy, and David's been there since the beginning, David Wick, and you'll hear from him soon. I should mention that shortly after we did all the formalities of starting a new nonprofit, we quickly began laying the groundwork for the first celebration of the International Day of Peace in San Francisco, which you will be hearing more about soon. Avon was involved with the creation of that day, the International Day of Peace, which started before Pathways did in 1981. And has become an international global holiday and very important mark towards peace on Earth, which we have a long way to go, but we're working on it still. So the stage has been set. Relationships began strengthening, and Pathways was on its way. This marketing researcher had entered a whole new world. I have become a peace builder, which I didn't even know what that was when I was in market research, and I've never looked back. This has been an enduring and very important milestone in my life, and I include all of you in this amazing vibration of the Pathways to Peace energy today in celebration and in honor of our 40 years. Thank you.
And Marilyn, tell us a little bit about the International Day of Peace.
Well, first of all, I am just stunned, Joni. You shared things that I was unaware of. And so I am just feel so blessed to be here and celebrate the birth of Pathways to Peace. And I'm here because I had an experience at the Olympic Village And I was just seized by this thought because I understood what it took for people to achieve things that seem impossible. And I was seized by this thought that we could see peace in my lifetime if people thought about peace the way that athletes thought about gold medals. And at that time, there was like, I didn't know anybody who was thinking those kinds of things and talking about stuff like that. And thank goodness, I found Willis Harman, and then Pathways to Peace found me. And I instantly knew that Peace Day was a really important day, and that there needed to be one day in which we could see the peace that is, because 365 days a year, we're bombarded with the things that we need, the important problems that are out there and the things that we need to address. But I understood that we needed to be able to see the peace that is and to see where we are, and that we needed to be able to recognize where peace already exists and where it has existed throughout history, and to celebrate the peace builders and see the initiatives that are in place that are helping to systemically change things for the better. So, I was on fire. So talk about the council fire. I was really on fire. But in 1981, there were very few people that knew about Peace Day. And now it's celebrated in over 180 countries. And today we actually have access to the internet. So it's really true that where we are now, 40 years later, that anybody anywhere on the planet who cares about peace can really see the peace that is and can be inspired. So I am just so thrilled to be here on this 40th anniversary. And then I also know that being inspired is really not enough. That in order to achieve something that seems so kind of outlandish and outrageous to even talk about, we also need to be well informed. So not only am I eternally grateful about the origin and the establishment of Peace Day and where we are now, but I am really, really so appreciative of the Peace Wheel. And the Peace Wheel was also developed by Pathways to Peace. And it is explained in the Peace Card. And basically, it was based on global summits, most of them taking place at the UN, on all kinds of different topics, like the rights of the child and the rights of women and the environment and so forth. But out of those summits came these statements, and the Peace Wheel has 8 different sectors. And these sectors really make it easy for us to identify that there are foundational pieces that are always present when people have lived in peace. And in places where peace exists now, these foundational elements are there to some degree or another. So peace can seem like really complex, but it's much easier to envision when we look through the lens of these elements. And I'm going to share just a couple of them with you to make it really clear. So on the Peace Card, it says, imagine a world. And when we imagine a world where governments respect the human rights of all their citizens and settle disputes by the rule of law for the common good, that looks like peace to me. And we can see where it exists and where it doesn't, and what we can do to help accelerate that. Another of the sectors that I hold quite dear, I'm going to read it, is where all people have food, shelter, and access to medical care, and children are born into and raised by healthy families and communities. That looks like peace to me. And we can see places where it exists, and we can engage in ways that can accelerate that at home and abroad. And the third one that I love, and they're all wonderful, is where literacy and education for all are accomplished facts. That looks like peace to me. And we can now see where that's present and how that is emerging on the planet. So I am eternally grateful, not only for Peace Day, but for the Peace Wheel, and to understand that where we are now, not artificial intelligence, AI is access to information. We can access the information and see where it's existed, where these things are now, and what we can do. So I am so delighted that 40 years later, we now have access to information, AI, that will accelerate the vision that was started over 40 years ago. And the third place I just want to mention as the other contribution is the Peace Wave. Pathways to Peace, initiated the Peace Wave back in 1982. And it was and is designed so that people in all time zones can just take a pause for peace. Just pause for a moment for peace at all time zones. And at this time, it actually takes on many different forms that are kind of takeoffs on the peace wave. And there are places all over the world, for example, what is it? The Global Silent Minute for peace. And so there are places and people all over the world that pause for peace each day as part of the peace wave, but it's invisible. Most people don't know that it exists. And even those who are participating aren't aware of all of the others who are participating. So we can now see this because we have social media. Social media can now create structures that have us all able to see one another, including different days when over 100,000 people gather together in one place and meditate for peace as part of the peace wave. So I am really delighted for the ways that we can now engage social media so we can make the formerly and currently invisible peace wave visible. So I'm going to close just by saying thank you, thank you, thank you for celebrating this most important birthday of this vision that was created. And yes, Peace Day is September 21st, and it's one day, but we know Peace Day is every day, and that you can pause for peace and in one breath increase the peace and be part of the peace wave. That you can have fun with with AI, access to information, and become really well informed about the status of peace and what's going on and how you can be involved in the best and the biggest game on earth. And then finally, on Peace Day, let us all celebrate. Let us all be inspired, informed, and engaged. So bless you and thank you. I was seized by a thought, and I'm still on fire and just delighted to be on this team. Thank you so much for inviting me to share this morning.
Thank you, Marilyn. Wonderful to hear you and what your experiences were. And part of being part of Pathways to Peace, and my name is David Wick. I'm current president of Pathways to Peace after Eben passed. And I've been with Pathways, as Joni mentioned, from the very beginning, the very start of Pathways to Peace. And the joy of being part of Pathways to Peace is our relationships. The people who have carried this forward, who have been inspired to do this through many different phases. And here we are today. It's quite amazing, 40 years later. So I just wanted to share with you some of the things that we have done, some of the areas that we've covered in the past, and give you a couple of visuals to also what Marilyn had just talked about. So we have the slide deck, please. So again, and taking a look at that, it's just like, wow, 40 years. And it goes by quickly, but with deep journeying. It's a both inward and outward journey, which is, there's no other way. You have to grow with us. Next, please. So this is basically the vision, a world at peace, mission, Pathways to Peace, expands the understanding and expression of peace, fosters peace builders and peace building activities, and builds an integral movement of a culture for a culture of peace. Our values: multicultural, intergenerational, global and local, cooperation, collaboration, and diverse pathways to peace. Next, please. And here we are with our two founders, Even and Joni. And they set the tone from the very beginning of being very conscious, of being collaborative, and very heart-centered and spirit-focused. Next, please. And here's Even, where she had so much impact. She was known, she was loved, and she always worked with such grace in all that she did. And she, again, as Joni had mentioned, in 1981, she had already been very effective at the United Nations to help move forward to a resolution of the International Day of Peace, which was major. And here we are today with hundreds of millions of people around the world. Next, please. And International Day of Peace, as was mentioned, is so important. Next. And this was one of the flyers that we had in 1984. So there had not been much done after the resolution was passed in 1981, not much done at the UN. And so in 1984, Pathways to Peace took the leadership in San Francisco and had the first major event of the International Day of Peace, and invited many around the world. So it was a very big deal. There's a big story behind this and what we did and what took place, but it was a major experience for all of us. Next, please. And, again, as I say, hundreds of millions of people, but a real focus on young people. And we still have a strong focus on young people because that is a continual, energetic, the inspiration comes from the young people who are saying, yes, we can do this. And it's happening today also. Next. Pathways to Peace, this is what was mentioned by Marilyn, the Peace Wheel, and which all the different areas, every area of our lives, of our community, are pathways to peace. Each person is a pathway to peace. And in the center there, you can see the double infinity, which Joni had mentioned, but there's a deep story behind that. That was the inspiration with Avon. And she had the inspiration when she was 4 years old about world peace and what that could be. She was very clear, and that set her life path to creating pathways to peace. Next, please. So again, the peace wave, this is important. This is happening around the world. This started with Pathways, 1982. And it is something that we can all engage in. And it is something frankly, I forget sometimes. But it's a way of taking a moment, as Marilyn had said, and she talked about the importance of the peace wave. And it really is. It's a place and a time when we can come together as humanity. Next. And this is what Marilyn was reading, the peace card, with his different segments of this is what peace is. Imagine a world, and this whole list is wonderful. That's very inspiring. But this is a collaborative effort, creating these segments on this card, and it's beautiful. Next, please. And then the culture of peace. Pathways has been deeply involved with the focus of the culture of peace from the very beginning. We had that language in the 80s, and that became a critical part of the peace building focus at the United Nations, culminating in 1999, the Culture of Peace and Program of Action of the Culture of Peace. And that set the tone in working with Ambassador Chaudhry, David Adams, and others to really to co-create the culture of peace. And that's something that gives some deep thought to, is the culture of peace is all things that we do, our lives, and our own, how we function internally and in our relationships. Next, please. Moving from the idea of the UN with the culture of peace, with the Pathways, we created the Culture of Peace Initiative. So CPI, and the first focus that we had was Ashland, because I moved to Ashland. So CPI Ashland, and from that focus and inspiration of the community, we created the Ashland Culture of Peace Commission, which is live and thriving today, which also brought in the World Peace Flame, the only second in the United States. Next, please. As was mentioned, Dr. Willis Harman, he was a key person. He was a very close friend, colleague, co-creator, a great visionary. And he also became the president of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and a very close person. But he was very important and still is very important for us. And next, please. His book and his work on global mind change. And we had this, I'll tell you more in a moment, but a major gathering of people, very much based on Dr. Harmon's work and his vision, and very powerful ways to move forward as a global community. Next, please. And as also was mentioned, that we've always had a focus on young people. And from the very beginning, establishing, we had youth representatives to the United Nations, Pathways to Peace youth representatives. And here's a picture of some of them. And on the far left is George Anthony. And George has been the prime teacher, guide, and bringing in the young people to be the representatives, and absolutely being outstanding. And he worked very closely now with Hezekiah Gabriel in creating programs and supporting the young people who are the representatives, and who have really they've grown from some from grade school. I'm not grade school, but middle school, and still part of Pathways to Peace, and are brilliant spokespeople for peace and peace building, and do speak at the UN at various events. Next, please. These are some of the initiatives that we've had. Each one of them has some deep history that we've done. Peace within organizations, with all organizations. How do we function internally with our customers, with our the employees, etc. So there's a big work there. Peace building through business. What is the role of businesses in peace building in the world? What's the role of the corporation in peace building? Peace building for the 21st century had 5 years from 1995 to 2000. Twice a year we met at Kalamazoo, Michigan, at the Fetzer Institute, and very much led by Willis, David, and we had incredible people, international people coming together with a whole focus on looking to the future. What does peace building look like into the 21st century? We have material that is yet to be brought forward from that experience. Again, Peace is the Only Gold with Marilyn King and her deep work with the Olympian mind thinking, Olympian mindset, and her great work, Peace Education. We have people involved with this, with Masanko and others, We the People's Initiative with Joni, and many conferences and convenings, mentoring, and collaboration. So just a deep amount of work that have carried us forward and established the respect that Pathways has today. Next, please. And here's the truth of it, that everyone, all of us, are Pathways to Peace. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming together to celebrate this very significant and important day. Thank you. This would be Robert and Sheva. Are you here and would like to share with us? There we go. Sheva, hi.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
Robert.
Robert is going to speak first, and then I'll share something.
Hey there. Can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I'll say a few things and pass the peace torch to Sheva. You know what David just ended on, this, how all of us are a unique pathway to peace, is what drew my heart to Avon and David and the whole crew and Joni. How long has it been now, David, that Sheva and I, it's 12 years that Sheva and I have been on the team?
Oh, yeah.
So there's something amazing about the peace field and how it draws and harmonizes all different sorts of bodies of work and how it integrates into a harmonious wholeness. And the notion that we all are a pathway to peace, a unique pathway to peace, and our individuated expression and how that blends as a wholeness is what always has made my heart rejoice in certain ways and give me hope that as a planet, eventually it unfolds to that point. But when Chev and I came on board, I mean, of course, our life's work has so much been, or my life's work has been so much about the heart. And the notion of the seed that it was talked about earlier too, the heart, everyone has this unique expression, a unique flower, if you will, a unique tree, or whatever it is, the seed within your heart that's has so much potential to grow and to sprout. And so when I have committed my life to this, to the heart and to peace, the notion that the heart has a way of somehow the entire map of peace is in our heart, is in our own individuated body. So to the degree that we have lack of peace inside, where we look at the mirror and judge ourselves, or where we look at the news and have a type of anger that's at a level of distortion and separation, wherever love is not flowing freely, wherever the types of things we actually can radiate from our heart to contribute to the peace, where it's not flowing freely, that is each one of our individuated pathways to where we can contribute to the peace field. And to me, that's the heart of our contribution to this work. It's the heart of all of us, how every single person, whether we feel like how could I help peace ever happen in the world? I'm sitting here in this cubicle in this office space, and I'm not at the UN. I can't help nuclear disarmament. But the truth is, when you turn off all the lights on the planet and just look at the energetic fields, I'm going to show you just one quick picture of an aspect of truth, is that each one of us is broadcasting a field into the environment that either is contributing to the momentum of separation and distortion, or contributing to the momentum of peace and harmony. And that field is connected to what we hold in our heart. And what we hold in our heart is determined every moment, every small moment of every day, whether we're in the kitchen or we're on a stage of 1,000 people or somewhere in between. Every vote that our heart makes into the field matters. It contributes to that pathways, the pathway to peace. And each one of us, every single one of us, have a heart. Each one of us have that. It's a very democratic thing. We each have an equal vote. And so to that notion, it has been an absolute joy and bliss, actually, for the body of work of the heart and coming together with peace and being a part of this council, to add our unique expression of how the heart contributes to this field. And so I just want everyone to be honest just for a moment before I pass the baton to Sheva. Is there one small bit in your current life as you woke up this morning that just feels a slightly just out of discord? Something feels a little out of peace. It could be a self-perception or how we're holding something in the world. Just be honest about that just for a moment. Just be real with it. Oh, I'm judging this person, or I'm hating this situation. I'm frustrated about that. And just be real for just a moment of how is that affecting your heart. It's a little chaotic, a little frustrated. Don't judge it. Hold it with latitude, hold it with compassion, but be honest. And now just shift your attention to the area around the heart and start to breathe through the area around the heart a little deeper than usual. Heart focused breathing. Breathing in and out through that area with the intention of just having the breath integrate with the heart. And as you continue to breathe through the heart area, just ask your heart, your larger intelligence, is there just one little anything, someone or something in your life that you just feel love for, or compassion, or care, or just feel that you can offer a gesture of peace towards, a feeling of peace. But sometimes that's too big. Just a little love, a little care, a little appreciation. And just breathe that through the heart area, something that comes easy to you. And as you just breathe that quality through the heart area, then just radiate that to all the cells in your body and to everyone in this room. And then just set an intention to offer it to all those that you know are going through a harder day, a little less peaceful, as a gift from your heart to theirs, that they might find it just an aspect, just one more bit more peace today. And then as you breathe that intention and we re-engage here, just notice how quick these choices can be. Peace lives in the micro moments of our life. Every little moment matters. And every little moment is just as equal as the other in terms of any time we turn judgment into more love. The type of energy that we put into the field environment can help this world in that momentum towards peace. I'm just going to hand the baton to Sheva as a pivot, but we're grateful to be a part of all this.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you all to everyone who's spoken this morning. It's really been poignantly beautiful to hear from you all, to honor the history, to honor Avon and others who are not with us any longer. And I also want to honor that our gathering is happening in celebration of this anniversary at a time of great escalation of violence in the world. And it can feel like, how can we talk about peace when there's so much violence? And how, beyond talking about it, can we be effective change agents in the face of that violence? And this is really what Avon and we are talking about today. What we're talking about is directly relational to what's happening, not separate from it. Because what Robert just shared turns out to be our agency in responding effectively as change agents. And I'm a bit in awe listening to everyone at the power of human conscious intuition. Insofar as if we look at what Avon and Joni started together and what others began with them and in their own silos, saying you are a pathway to peace, speaking to the idea of a peace wave. We didn't have science that showed us those things in 1977. Those were downloads of meditative states in Avon. Certainly not in the 40s and 50s when she was a child and saw these visions. But by 1995 and now, we have science that shows you can be a pathway to peace. It must be a choice. And that the peace wave isn't just a metaphor. It's a physics principle. It's something real and tangible that, as Marilyn spoke to, we can't see, but we can measure it. So the Global Coherence Initiative at the HeartMath Institute has been collecting evidence that there is a global effect when a large number of people create similar outgoing emotional waves. Could be stress, could be peace. This is where our choice comes. Incoherent or coherent. And so in 1995, years after Peace Day was created, many years after, Avon had this vision that each being has this choice, has this capacity to choose to be a pathway to peace through their very beingness, not just their activity. HeartMath Institute discovered that feelings of peace are human feelings, which shift the heart rhythm into this coherent wave, a peace wave that does go out and change the world. So this Peace Day that the Pathways to Peace team assisted the United Nations in creating measurably changes the world on that day. This is random number generators on the 9/11 terrorist attacks. What you see here is a depiction that chaos became more chaotic. Randomicity became more random. And rather than being a heart rhythm or peace wave of an individual, this is the waves around the earth that day at a little before 9 a.m. Eastern. When the trade towers came down, the earth's field became chaotic in response to collective human emotional chaos. But on Peace Day, when we're all focused on peace, the opposite occurs. That little exercise Robert just took us through has more power than you might think. This is the trend measured at Princeton University of random number generators becoming less random as more people focus on peace throughout that day. Randomicity becomes coherent order. And compassion and love have the largest effects on that measured state of peace. So the peace wave is real. And the fact that each of us are droplets in that ocean, pathways to peace through what we are, not just what we do, is now measured by science. So, like Robert, as I pass the baton to my colleagues, and in honor of this vision Avon had, which science proves real now, I invite us all to focus attention on the heart, to imagine the breath is flowing in through the heart and out through the heart. Inviting the inhale and the exhale to be even in length, which starts the coherence of the wave. And to breathe a feeling of peace in through the heart and out through the heart, and imagine radiating that as a wave into the field environment, to those places of violence in our world, those people on the ground who don't yet know that even in the midst of the chaos, they have a choice to be a pathway to peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Beautiful, Sheva and Robert. And this is Garrett who is one of our youth representatives and who has a great story himself. So welcome, Garrett, representative to the UN. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert and Shiva. Amazing reflection. So I'm Garrett Nolan. I'm a youth board member for Pathways to Peace, and I've been on that board since around 2020. It's a blessing to be here for the 40th anniversary. Pathways, I'm glad to say, has been such a large part of my life over the past few years. I remember back in my freshman year of high school, I'm now a senior, I got a phone call from Mr. Anthony, who was my teacher at the time, and he told me that I was chosen to potentially hold a youth position with Pathways to Peace, along with my colleague and student, Mia Rodriguez. Now, I accepted this role, and along with it came so many great opportunities and experiences. A few years back, I was able via Zoom to meet Linda Lowry, who is the youngest person on the Selma to Montgomery March for Freedom. I also was able to meet people like Ibrahim Sharif, a very peaceful and experienced man in the field of peace building. I've also had the privilege to attend many conferences at the United Nations in New York City, most recently the International Day of Peace in 2022. You know, with all that's going on in the world right now, Ukraine, the Middle East, and now potentially South America, I'll often hear people complaining about how the world is, and I get it. I completely understand where they're coming from. But one of the things I truly love about my position with Pathways to Peace is that I have the peace of mind knowing that I'm not just complaining, we're actually taking action to create positive change. I'll be able years from now to be able to know that we were part of the solution. I didn't just sit back and watch the world suffer. And that is one of my proudest things about my work with Pathways. Getting people involved, and especially youth members, is such a wise thing for anyone to do, but especially a peace building organization like ourselves. I want to thank Tezekiah and all the Pathways members for taking the chance by selecting me as a youth member. I want you to know that it has had such a positive impact in my life, and I am incredibly grateful. Now, with that being said, I want to finish by saying that Pathways to Peace has done so many great things in my life alone, and I cannot wait to see what the next 40 years bring. Thank you.
And now we have Natasha, one of our board members, who is one of our directors, who is coming to us from South Africa. Dear Natasha, welcome.
Thank you, David. Welcome everyone to this platform of peace. Against the majestic backdrop of this anniversary of Pathways to Peace, there are just 3 very simple but moving initiatives that I can make mention of that stand out for me personally over the past 2 years. And I've had the privilege to see it in action. I've been with the Pathways to Peace only since 2020, and I've been a council member for the last year. The Exceptional Women of Peace Award stands out firstly. It recognizes women doing exceptional work globally. I've been really moved by their dedication to helping others in distress, especially in war-torn countries amid unbelievable conflict. They support displaced people. They selflessly are spending time educating and coaching others to be peace builders around the world. These are powerful women. They're iconic. They're carrying the light of hope and love. And I can see they inflamed with this desire to advocate for those who are less fortunate, to speak up and to be heard, especially in countries where leaders and decision makers need to listen. And they go on to save lives and indeed change policies for the safety and the inclusion of those who are marginalized or ill-treated or actually forgotten. Secondly, on a practical note, in Conakry, Guinea, we see equally brave young women, examples of girls who stand up, and they often do so alone against the wishes of their family and the elders in their communities. They're resisting grave odds to escape female genital mutilation and or forced marriages. Pathways to Peace has led the opening of a shelter there for these girls. Tezuka in particular, together with Bright Hearts on the other end in Conakry, have through the shelter offered respite and safety for so many girls. They then stand up as an example to others for an alternative reality. For girls who are overwhelmed and seek a different path, the shelter provides a new way and a new day. And their brave efforts will go on to inspire so many more to choose differently, having a changeover effect in their society eventually. Lastly, and closer to home in South Africa, I personally have been involved with university youth who are far more privileged compared to the counterparts I've just mentioned in the north of Africa. But they do also face their own issues. It's less pernicious, of course, but equally worrying and life-threatening all the same, because so many of these students experience anxiety and disruption that comes with mental dis-ease. Because of my work with Pathways to Peace and being close to this very enigmatic and energetic circle that you've been hearing from and where the flame burns so brightly, I've also then been able to take in my small way some of this peace messaging to be a pathway to peace for these students. I've conducted classes around meditation and yoga and breathing techniques, and these results have been encouraging. You see students light up. They have an access to a space of calm and expansion that they couldn't conceive of before or experience before. And so I want to share with you and appeal to you and actually confirm that we all are pathways to peace in these simple examples. These three examples, as I mentioned, of the Exceptional Women of Peace Awards, the Girls Shelter in Conakry, Guinea, and the yogic meditation experienced with South African youth. These are initiatives that reinforce for me the far-reaching ripples that peace initiatives can have on other human beings. These are only a sample of some of the initiatives that Pathways to Peace supports, as David and Madeline and everyone else who's gone before has shared in terms of the global and actually earth-shaking changes Pathways to Peace has already made. But these initiatives too provide an example of the Pathways to Peace support, shares, and how they continue to honor through a very broad and global peace community this vital work, whether it's standing up in protest or lying down on your yoga mat. These are the sacred gifts that hold the promise of peace for individuals and society. It is my intention today that you'll always spark to recognize that you are an extraordinary pathway to peace. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Natasha. Beautiful. Thank you for that sharing. And I'd like to introduce Masanko Banda. And Masanko has been one of the, from the very beginning, directors. And at the time when he began, he was a young guy. He was one of our more youthful people. And he has been an instructor and an educator, and some in more in classroom kind of situations, but more through his dance, through his music, through inspiration of bringing out the spirit of what it means to be a human being, but to be a peace, at peace, and what that looks like. And Masanko is from Malawi, and where he is now, and he's been, when he first began in the United States, and a lot of time spent was in the San Francisco Bay Area and with North Haven and so on. But he's not able to be here in person, but he did send a video in his greetings. So if we may see, dear Masanko Banda.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are, where you are watching this important broadcast, this important vigil, as we celebrate 40 years of Pathways to Peace's existence, of Pathways to Peace creating, making, building peace all over the world, creating, building, and making peace messengers in North America, Central America, South America, Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, and all other places of the world. It is auspicious that on this day, the 8th of December, 2023, we are celebrating 40 years of peacemaking. I am so excited to share with you just a little bit of the peace journey that I have been on. It has been an honor and a privilege for me to serve on the board of Pathways to Peace for the last 35 years. When I met Avon in 1992 in California, I began an incredible journey alongside Joni, David Wick, and all the other Pathways board members of working around the world to bring about peace. I share with you one story that comes to mind about peace in action. I am a storyteller, a drummer, a musician, and I use these artistic tools to reach young people. About 17 years ago in San Francisco, I was invited to give a presentation at the San Francisco Juvenile Center. It was the day after Martin Luther King's birthday. I went in, and about 17 young men and women filed into the chapel of the San Francisco Youth Guidance Center. And they sat down expectant, watching me, wondering what I was going to do. I had my drum, I had my songs. The central core of my message was to tell them about stories about people like Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, other peace builders around the world who had made an impact on changing the lives of people. And I said to them, today we are standing on the shoulders of all of these amazing, wonderful peace builders. Then I looked at them and I said, you know what? In 50 years, somebody else will come to this very room, speak to young people just like you, and say to them, somebody is standing on your shoulders as an exemplary peace messenger and peace builder. Just because you are here, it does not mean you cannot be a peace messenger. 10 years later, I met a young woman, and she said to me, Masanko, you met me 10 years ago, and you told me that somebody could stand on my shoulders. For me, it wasn't about 50 years down the line. For me, it was about my children. Were my children going to be able to stand on my shoulders? With your message of peace, you changed my life. I am going to be the first person in my family to go to college. I am no longer doing the cycle of juvenile center in and out. Bringing peace to the world is an active process, and I am so happy to have been a part of this process for the past 35 years. Happy birthday, Pathways to Peace. And I know that wherever she is, Avon Madison, the founder, is smiling today. Happy anniversary.
Beautiful. Thank you, Asako. Thank you for this beautiful reflection. And actually, I would say not only is Avon smiling wherever she is, but she's doing her Snoopy dance. So she did a funny Snoopy dance. So another person that's here is one of our wonderful directors, Erica. And I believe that you are here, and please share what you would like to do so. As the next phase here is to open this up to others, whoever is here, and you'd like to share your thoughts, your expressions before we conclude at the bottom of the hour. Erica, hi.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, good evening. Such an honor to really be here and be part of Pathways to Peace as a director. I just love all that has been shared this morning, and this morning for me. It's just been so meaningful, and I was really fortunate to join Pathways to Peace after meeting Hezekiah. And it just clicked, and I felt like I found my home, and the work that I had been doing in the world made sense. And really, I'm going to go back to the peace wheel that Marilyn shared earlier, just covering all the different arenas and of really what peace work looks like. And indeed, Robert and Sheva, you just did an incredible job talking about what we can do individually. And so in my heart, I believe I've been doing that work for a while. I've tried to lead with being mission driven and heart centric. And so some of the projects that I've worked on have included some land healing of indigenous sites. I'm now certified in Reiki. That's a new development this year for me. I advocate for folks with disabilities, both mentally and physically, and have supported them in the past in both volunteer and some paid work on that. Also, the work that I've done in more of a corporate structure, again, and thanks, Robert and Sheva, for what you presented this morning, because that's been a challenge for me sometimes to say, oh, I wish, I could be doing something else. But really, my mission has always been to advance or provide resources to folks globally. So for example, during the pandemic, I was representing solutions that brought assessment solutions so people could test and learn remotely. And that was a really interesting time and honor to be in that space. And again, weaving it back to becoming, a peace worker, and also have provided curriculum to for folks for career and technical education to expand their career pathways as they're moving out of poverty. And so the projects that I take really are very mission based in how can we move forward to bring peace to the world. And Pathways to Peace, just again, it just has felt, it's been a home to me. I love all of you so much dearly, and just to know that I have a tribe and that I belong in the work that I'm doing, and it respectively fits into the peace wheel, although it's not always this very clear path of what is a peace builder. And each of you just do such amazing work here, and it's such an honor to be alongside of you in this journey and with your work. Fortunately, I had the ability to meet Aven before she moved to the other side. And she just embodied this presence and the work that in her legacy, along with you, Joni and David and Masanko, and Hezekiah and that everybody has done. It's just such incredible beings, and the work that PTP has done and continues to do is just really mind-blowing. And I'm just so honored to be with you all and to celebrate this anniversary. It's just very, very special to me. So happy anniversary, Pathways to Peace. I just really look forward to the next 40 and how I can help contribute to this mission and continue to do so as I evolve and as the world evolves and PTP. So blessings to all of you, and thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Erica. Yes, as we evolve, continual, that is our journey. And so we need to have about 4 minutes at the very end, at the bottom of our hour, but have this open to anyone else who'd like to share and express. And if you would, raise the reactions at the bottom of your menu on the bottom, just raise your virtual hand or your physical hand. And so you could, recognize you, and we'll have about 7 minutes to be able to share before we conclude. Anyone like to share anything from your experience? Yes, Sheva.
I just want to honor, as I've heard our council speak here this morning, both of our history as well as our future, and this nexus of the moment, of which all of you are a crucial part in the heart. How important what you just shared, Erica, and everyone is, but Erica, particularly, you brought into my awareness how peace doesn't make headline news. The culture of peace is the way we shop for groceries and treat the people at the checkout stand. It's the micro choices we make in our lives. It's how we educate children, to your point, Erica, which doesn't become a news headline. And so the culture of peace in the public eye is somewhat of a Magellan ship, and has been. And what Aven and Joni and David and those who historically held this work and launched it, and those driving it now, like Hezekiah and Garrett and Natasha, we're making the invisible visible and saying it matters. With our voice, our actions, this celebration. So I just wanted to honor that peace is a fabric that holds life together. Without it, there would be no coherent life on this planet. So it doesn't make headline news. And yet it's foundational. And I thank everyone here for making it visible and matter.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Sheva. And that's so true. And I can just also say that on the journey of being part of Pathways to Peace, it requires personal growth. It requires the personal journey, because you cannot stay static and really live this dynamic, evolving being of peace, or being peace, that is absolutely essential. And the other is, what you're saying, Sheva, is a culture of peace, because I've done this directly in Ashland, Oregon. It affects community. It affects the organization. We work with the police department and its relationships with the community. We're working with the school district. So many different things, but it does make headlines, but it makes a difference over time. Absolutely does. Anyone else like to share before we have Tezekiah concluding with us? Any hands raised? Okay, Tezekiah, please guide us further.
Oh my goodness, my heart is so full. Thank you, all of you, our cherished leaders and partners, for bringing us through this journey, the history, the origins of Pathways to Peace, and beginning to touch on some of what we're doing today. And so, oh, Joni has her hand up. Joni?
I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. I just am so blown away and so grateful at all of the contributions to this beautiful day honoring Pathways to Peace and our dear founder, Avon Madison. And I just want to underline that we all are Pathways to Peace. And there's so many things that I could mention that have been on my peace path, and so many things that all of you could mention. And I'm just grateful that this is being recorded so we can share it with our broader community, because a lot of people are working or doing other things or don't get up this early or whatever. So thank you for an exquisite honoring of this important day. Thanks especially to Tezekiah and David. I love you.
And we love you. There's so much love here in this room, both those who have brought their voices forward and those who are attending. We feel you. Thank you for who you are, for your commitment to peace, for being here today while we hold both the honoring of all of the challenges and conflicts in our world, at the same time that we hold our vision and intention and belief in peace. And so thank you for being here. And so just a couple of notes about next steps. Again, the closing ceremony is at 7 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. And that's where we talk about where we are today and where we're going in the future. We have several of our global partners coming in to talk about our collective vision for peace and what is happening, that we are Pathways to Peace is privileged to be in leadership roles with, and opportunities for you to engage. So we hope you'll come in and join us then. And now we kick off our vigil. So the sacred fire is going to remain in the room. There will be continuous harp music. Tammy's harp music will be playing over the next 10.5 hours. And we invite you, all of you, and encourage you to invite others to come into this sacred room to light a candle, which gives our intention that much more power, and to state your intention or prayer for peace. Thank you to those of you on this in this gathering who agreed to be a room steward. We will have a different room steward for each of the hours until we come into closing tomorrow. And so you are welcome to come in and share your intention. We will be collecting those intentions and prayers because they are powerful tools for peace. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of Pathways to Peace. You are a part of this family. And we will close with how we often close, which is that reinforcement that you are a pathway to peace. And let's make Peace Day every day. And we'll ask Tammy to then play us out this opening ceremony and then opening up the room for the sacred candlelight vigil. So I'd like you all, and you can open up your microphones. Okay, I think you can do that now, right? Okay, so this is how we're going to do this. We first say, I am a pathway to peace, and embrace our heart. Ready? Let's hear it. I am a pathway to peace. You are a pathway to peace. Reach out to your colleagues in the room. You are a pathway to peace. And now around us with a huge collective hug. We are pathways to peace. Ready? We are pathways
to
to
peace.
peace. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Now let's get to work. Tammy?
So this song that I have that I'm going to play is the first song that I ever played for Avon, and she had quite a visceral response to it. It's called Peace Blessing, and almost every time that I've played it since her passing, I feel her come into my the back of my shoulders and down my hands. So I would invite you, as I'm playing this, to take a breath into your heart, very similar to what Robert and Sheva had us do. Feel that love and let that love ripple out as the vibrations of the harp playing Peace Blessing.